Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Emilio Danello of the Fulham Shadow. In this episode, Emilio and I are going to look back at a come from behind 3-2 victory on Friday night for Fulham against Nottingham Forest. There's a lot to talk about in regards to that, Emilio, and I look forward to going through this with you. And there's other news that maybe if we have some time, we'll be talking about as well. Couple things before we get going. I also want to mention, as always, please do subscribe on YouTube. It's a great way to get alerts when we're going live, like we're going live right now. If you want to be when we are live, here's the right way to do it. Subscribe on YouTube. Also, and this is Emilio's first show since the deal, we are now part of the Talk Sport Fan Network. Emilio, I want to get your thoughts on this. You and I were working on this, and I think this is going to be something that's very beneficial for the podcast and all of our listeners. Let's talk a little bit about our dealings with becoming part of the Talk Sport Fan Network and what it might mean for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Ross. Good to be back, and certainly good to be back after sort of a slightly uncomfortable couple of weeks after passing of our Majesty. We will talk about that afterwards, but certainly the association with TalkSport, yeah, great deal. You know, you and I had a number of conversations in the lead up to basically signing up to this network, and what it does, it opens up a vast opportunity for all our listeners globally, and for us to connect with all the other fans around the country, around the world. You know, there's a vast number of millions of supporters following their clubs all around the world, in the UK, in America, and other countries, and this is a platform for all of us to connect. We all have one common interest here, supporting our beloved clubs, and I see this as a way of just connecting with all those fantastic supporters who all have different opinions, different views, and you know, for me, it's, you know, if it means that it brokers a sort of a wider network, and we diversify into and connecting with other fans globally who have same interests with different clubs, and I'm sure it's a win-win all round. You know, a bit like a political party. Some people have their pros, and some people have got their cons, and none of us are right. We have our views about Fulham Football Club. Sometimes I agree with you, sometimes I disagree with you, and this is no different. It's just
right.
All our fans around the world who've been avid listeners of Cottage Talk and watching ourselves for many years, you know, see this as a positive. It's not going to change our content. It just means it keeps us more on our toes in an interesting way. We've got to keep our content up to the right level, and we will engage with other fans around the country, and you know, and our Premier League colleagues and other networks who do a lot of great work on their podcast. So yeah, hopefully everyone watching this show tonight will support what we've done here. And like you said, it's a testament to yourself, for us, for many years of keeping the show together. We've worked tirelessly for many years as well. Now it's about 8-9 years. When I first met you in New York, you remember that? It was 8 years ago.
Yes.
We met face to face in New York. That was 8 years ago almost. So it's a lot's evolved there. Look where we are now. So yeah, great work as always from yourself, Russ. And I'm sure everyone who watches the show will applaud you for all the hard work you've done here.
Well, thank you, Emilio. And you've been a big part of the success of Cottage Talk. And the fact that we're now part of this network just takes us, I think, to the next level. And like you said, it's going to open us up to other supporters of other clubs. They're going to be introduced to us, and our supporters will be introduced to other podcasts. So this is a win-win, and I think it's going to be great. And I look forward to when this gets bigger and bigger, and there'll be a big push from Talk Sport after the World Cup, but we are in the beginning stages of this partnership, and we'll see where it takes us. But I just want to mention one more time that we're now part of the Talk Sport Fan Network. Okay, Emilio, as you had mentioned, it's been a somber time for you and many supporters and just people around the world. So I want to get your thoughts, and please feel free to share your thoughts of mourning the loss of Queen Elizabeth. This actually hit me hard, and I'm American, but it still affected me. I can't imagine how it's affected everyone in England and, of course, around the world. So feel free to share your thoughts about the loss of Queen Elizabeth.
No, absolutely. And thanks for obviously death and loss of our close friends and family, sometimes more important than work and sport. Sometimes we complain about our work-life balance. We complain about football and decisions not going away. But at the end of the day, we've had our beloved Majesty, the Queen, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, it has hit me and my family very, very hard, to be honest. I'm grateful that you didn't do the show during the time when everyone was mourning and grieving for a loss. But, she was 70 plus years serving our country, serving the Commonwealth. she was everyone's using quotes I've read from a lot of pundit, people out there saying that she was everyone's best friend, and I concur to that. I've met her a few times, not personally, but I've seen her in events I've attended. She's been in fairly close proximity to where I am. My son-in-law works in the British military, and he's met the Queen on many occasions. He worked for her regiment, for many years, so he was devastated with her mourning. But I'm very grateful for what she did, and I'm very proud of what she did for this country and for the Commonwealth and for the world. And she will be missed. But in King Charles, we've got a suitable successor there who will take the monarchy to a continuation and next level. To be honest, I think we need a bit of continuity, and it's just lovely to see the whole world and country in particular just coming together the last 10 days, mourning, grieving her loss, and in a way, celebration of her lifetime. 96 years old, she's had a good innings, and I've shed a tear or two the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you, as my family. But it just puts everything in perspective. Football comes second, family and death comes first, and health comes first. So, just want to say thank you very much, Queen Elizabeth, for everything you've done for the world, and King Charles, I wish you all the best in succeeding with the Queen Elizabeth. You've got big boots to fill, but he's had plenty of time to prepare for this. So I have total faith in him, and now we can move on. The last 10 days we've grieved, we've suffered, we've mourned. Football can now continue, and life carries on back as normal now.
Wonderfully said, Emilio. I wanted to give you a chance to really just express yourself. And you and I talked about it, and I thought it was the right thing to do not to do a show during this period, as people were mourning the death of someone that meant so much. And as you said, it brought everyone together. Everyone was shedding a tear, but it brought us all together. And I thought it meant sense to just grieve in your own way and do it in your what worked best for you. But what worked best, I think, was to wait and mourn as a world. And now we move on, and now we talk about football. Now we can talk about it. But up until that point, I didn't feel right, and I think we did the right thing here, because I wanted to do it and basically give the respect to Queen Elizabeth in my own way. This is my way of doing it. So that's why I decided not to do a show until now. But now we're going to do a show, my friend, and we're going to celebrate. Like you said, it's a celebration.
Absolutely.
Let's celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth as we do Cottage Talk, because, again, so many people are affected by Queen Elizabeth. A lot of us are Fulham supporters. So let's now move on and talk about the club that we love, my friend. So let's get your opening thoughts, my friend, of this come from behind 3-2 victory for Fulham Friday night. I'll just share a couple words myself. As I watched this on Peacock, I was nervous. I was nervous because I could see the importance that Nottingham Forest were putting on this, Emilio. And I thought, as long as we played our game, we would get our opportunities. And that's kind of how the match broke out. Was Fulham waited their opportunity, they got them, and then they pounced. And that's what was impressive. Playing from behind, I've questioned that last season, Emilio.
Yeah.
Could Fulham play from behind? Well, now they've done it, and they've done it in really wonderful fashion on the road at the City Ground, which is not an easy place to go. And they got all 3 points. And I'm here to say, and I know I've heard some excuses from Nottingham Forest supporters. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and blaming Cooper, blaming the way that they approached it. But Fulham deserved to win that match, Emilio. Those are my opening thoughts. Give me yours.
No, absolutely. It was good, good to get the football back on the road. I was all for the previous games the weekend before last to be cancelled because of in commemoration of the Queen and for her passing. So Premier League, and people may disagree with me, but I thought the right decision was made to cancel those first set of fixtures. And to be honest, I think everyone's come back a bit refreshed. And Fulham had a point to prove. This was a game we mustn't lose. We keep saying time and time again, we're in the Premier League. You've got to get points against the teams around you, and we're starting to see that trend this season. We've beaten the likes of Brentford. Brighton are clearly top 4 at the moment, but they'll start falling away, in my opinion. They'll probably finish top 7, top 8. But we're beating teams at home, and we're starting to pick up points away on the road as well. Nottingham Forest, like you said, is not an easy place to go. They've spent over £100 million on a completely 25 new players. They've got the problem we had. How does a manager deal with 25 new players who barely get time to play with each other, trying to still find his winning formula? And I thought it was a good opportunity for Fulham to play them, because we've come back refreshed. after the Tottenham defeat a couple of weeks ago. And, in my opinion, I thought we did the scoreline flattered Forest. On another day, we should have won by 2 or 3 goal margin. I thought first half, Forest didn't deserve to take the lead, but we were dominating that first half. I think we had a lot of possession, knocking on the door, but not quite finding that final ball to convert in the back of the net. But we were on top going into half time. Let's be honest. I think Forest were hanging in there, and all the Forest fans who I'm friends with and went to the game all saying they'd undeservedly went 1-0 up at half time. But again, we came out second half and absolutely annihilated them. Let's be honest. Forest were lucky to come away with just a 3-2 defeat. And that's, me, people think I'm negative. I'm actually a positive person here overall, realistic positive person, but disappointed we didn't win by a bigger margin there again. And this is where I take the positive from a winning performance against Forest. We should have won probably 4-2, if not more, to be honest. Disappointed we conceded that second goal, but overall we battered them second half in that period. And Forest were lucky to come away with just a 1-goal deficit in the game. So great victory. We're now able to beat teams around us. And that's important at the Premier League. You've got to start picking up points against the bottom half teams. We've got a victory away from home, so that will settle the nerves as well. As we've got to balance winning your home games and picking up points on the road. We've done that early in the season. How often do we come away from behind and win games in the past in the Premier League, let alone in the Championship last season? So it's not often. Mike Gregg's not here, but let's ask him how many times have Fulham been behind in the Premier League in 15 seasons? Not very often. So again, another positive. We weren't phased by going a goal down, similar with Tottenham and Arsenal. No, the Tottenham game, we could have come away with a 2-2 draw there in another day, undeservedly. But we still don't give up, whether you're a goal behind or 2 goals behind. So that's that winning formula and mentality Marco Silva's brought to this team. So Forest fans, say what you want, but you're lucky you came away with just a 3-2 defeat on that day.
Okay, and I tend to agree with you. I thought Fulham were by far the better side, especially in the first half, and we'll break this down. Another point before we really get into this, Emilio, I wanted to focus on Fulham come from behind. The other point I wanted to really talking point is this. Seeing the match out, Emilio. Now, this is huge, okay?
Yeah.
It's 3-2. It's going to be a nervy finish. I believe they scored around the 72nd, 73rd minute, if I remember correctly. So you still had a good amount of time to see this match out, especially in the latter stages. The way that they controlled the play at the very end of the match. I'm thinking of players like Tom Kearney just taking full control here and not really giving Nottingham Forest a real chance to get that equalizer. Let's talk about this because, again, this isn't the first time I've seen this now. I've now seen it a couple of times. Yeah. This is a very encouraging sign, seeing the match out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other match that springs to mind was a Brighton game. And again, dominating 2-0. They got a penalty, which we saw in replay was a justified penalty. But we hung on at times in that second half against Brighton. But again, Tom Kearney came on, a bit of composure, keeping ball, not giving the ball away cheaply. And then we did again, same against Forest. I didn't feel worried. I wasn't able to watch the game. I didn't go to Forest that game. But from what I could hear on the radio and listen to the commentary on the radio, I thought we were in control the last 10 minutes or so. I thought we closed the game out comfortably. We had an element of control. I don't know where the 6-7 minutes of added time came in, to be honest. I thought
I don't know where it came from either.
I don't know where that came from. But overall, we looked controlled. We didn't try to create anything, trying to get a third goal, close the game out, get the 3 points on the board, and don't take any rash decisions. And we did that against Brighton. The Graham Potter was complaining that we'd try to be antisocial, keeping the ball in the corner line, but that's what you do when you need to pick up 3 points. You're not time wasting per se. All you're doing is you're keeping possession. There's a difference between time wasting.
Absolutely, Emilio.
Theatrics, diving, feigning injury. There was none of that. It was just keeping the ball, trying to lose a few seconds here and there. Few corners, a few throw-ins. That all draws down from the clock. So overall, that's another piece of Marco Silva's equation. Last year, he might have gone out and tried to win 4-2 or 5-2. Actually, now 3 points are more important than trying to score a fourth goal. And 3 points in the Premier League is massive. So fair play to adjusting his tactics and being a little bit antisocial, albeit we didn't do nothing untoward. There was no cheating. There was no feigning injury. It was just purely playing possession football, doing what Italian teams do very well. And no reason why Fulham can't do that. So, 2 or 3 games out, Brentford, Brighton, and this game where we've tried to close the game out.
Very encouraging being able to do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Very encouraging, Emilio. I'm going to share this comment from our friend Chris Goodwin, who happens to be a Liverpool supporter. Full credit to Marco Silva and the players for collecting as many points and playing well so far and coming back from behind in games. Not something that they would have happened under Scotty P. And not that we're going to be slamming Parker here, but it's actually a valid point, Emilio. How often did they come from behind with Scott Parker? They now have this ability to do this. You can build on this. But it's also, like I said, I think it's a philosophy. And I'm going to go through a comparison a little bit later and see if you agree with me. But it's a mentality that they now have under Silva that is important to have. It's a discipline. Being able to see these matches out and being able to take advantage of your opponent when you have the opportunity. They were ruthless, and we'll talk about this. When you score that first goal, you come back with 2 more goals. That's being ruthless. That's basically keeping the foot on the gas and really just going after them. They continue to do that even though they didn't get the 4th. So it's a mentality. And then when you can switch the mentality, Emilio, and see the match out, this has a lot to do with Silva, Boa, the coach and stuff, but the players, you have to look at the players because they're seeing this strategy out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's less of a Scotty Parker philosophy. I think it's a Fulham tradition. How often do Fulham, Steve Reynolds, you're watching here, how often do Fulham come from behind in any match to win, whether in the Championship or Premier League? I don't remember many Premier League games in those 15 seasons, including this one, the previous one, where we've often come from behind. So again, even the big teams struggle to come from behind. So the fact that we've got the confidence, the arrogance to some extent, and belief that you can go out at half-time, regroup, come out a different team second half and actually just literally kill the game off in 6 minutes, which is what we did. So it's that again, it goes back with confidence, and we've got the players that can play an offensive brand of football. So it's slightly different to Roy Hodgson, where obviously it was all about keeping it tight, protecting your draw, or certainly not going behind. That was obviously Hodgson's philosophy is slightly different, but again, it brought confidence. We were difficult to beat at home, and we're starting to see that so far in the Premier League this season. And long may this continue. But it's 7 games in, we've all got more points than we expected on the board, and we're 11 points closer to safety. The way I look at it, there's other teams struggling to adjust, but that's to our advantage. We can challenge these other teams and grab as many points and victories as we possibly can, because this is a brutal division, as we know, and there's a lot to look forward to once we get
unforgiving division, very unforgiving.
Once we get Wilson back, more quality, more depth to come off, to come back from injury. Salomon in the new year. So look,
Dave Cronin brings this up, Emilio.
Yeah, great
Imagine
point.
what happens when the injured players come back, and that's a wonderful point. And I want to touch on this because you kind of mentioned Roy Hodgson, and I talked to our friend Steve Reynolds a little bit about this. It says we have got a team that fights for each other. Signs of Hodgson. Now, I think what Steve is talking about, not style of play, mentality and discipline. So I want to get your thoughts on this, because I tend to agree with Steve that there is this quality that Hodgson teams have that I think Silva's teams have as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the thing that springs to mind every game I've seen this season is we're difficult to beat. We're not getting hammered. We're not losing 3 or 4-0. There probably will be some games where we're going to be outfought and just be outplayed, and we're going to lose comfortably. But 7 games in, Liverpool, as I said before, disappointed we didn't get 3 points there. Wolves, in hindsight, should have won the game. Tottenham didn't play well for 70 odd minutes, but nearly came away with a 2-2 draw. And Arsenal disappointed to concede late. So look, we haven't been battered in any game other than probably the Tottenham game was probably the most one-sided 50 or 60 minutes that we've had in the Premier League. Other than that, we've been in all the games, competed well, not being battered. That's where the Roy Hodgson mentality comes in. I think, how many games did we lose comfortably under Roy? Very few. We're in most games, difficult to beat, especially at home. And if we can get that winning formula at home back again, then absolutely, Steve, I agree with you. We're not easy to break down. That's the key thing. And we're organised and offer a lot of attacking opportunity and threat. And that's where teams are struggling to adapt. Look at, the beginning of the season, Van Dijk and Mitrovic,
Right.
Some of these players have got a lot to they're underestimating the quality of Fulham. And now some of these teams are now starting to sort of say, Fulham, these guys aren't any pushovers now. So giving our opposition some food for thought.
Very good there, Emilio. I'm going to share this comment from Dave Cronin because I think it's a valid one. Listen, we have given up a
Well,
decent amount
yeah,
of goals here.
yeah, we
So
have.
if I had to be slightly critical, we're still a little sloppy, especially in
Yeah,
defense. Dave, you're right about this
yeah.
because it's something to really keep an eye on because if you keep giving up 2 goals, and listen, I want to give the Fulhamish guys a little credit. They talked a little bit about this. It's eventually going to come back to bite you in a league that is so ruthless. So this is something I'm glad that
Mhm.
they brought this up, Emilio. They're
Yeah.
going to have to tighten up.
Yeah, we have to. How many? We've had one clean sheet in 7, and we've always known under Silver. I remember the beginning of last season. We know what it. He will always look to score more goals than he concedes because we know under Silver we're going to concede goals. That's just the way he plays with attacking and high press type of football. I've seen him being a little bit more conservative in some games. Like we said, we've closed some of these games out and picked up the 3 points. That's another side of Silver that I've not seen under his previous regime when he was managing Everton and Watford. But yeah, we are still conceding goals, and we know that. And you know, Tim Reams had an outstanding season at the age of 34. Played out of position on Friday. Didn't let's be honest, didn't do very much wrong. But we've got some depth there in the squad now. We're going to still probably see Diop playing a few more games in due course. I think he's going to figure at some point, and he did have a pretty good game on Friday night. We've got other players on the bench who can come in and cover. So yeah, there was a sloppy goal. The second goal was a bit sloppy that we conceded last week, but the key thing is we've got goals in the tank. Under Parker, you go a goal behind. Where's that goal? Where's that equaliser going to come from? Whereas here now, what's the word? Disappointed if we go a goal behind. So I think we've got enough quality and opportunity to create chances and score goals, unlike his predecessors. So, but you're right, Dave. Our defence is still a little bit weak. We're conceding more goals on average. We're conceding a couple goals a game in recent times. So we've got to change that. Otherwise, if we don't get that, we don't score goals, then clearly we're going to lose by a big margin. So yeah, it's a fair point.
Okay, Emilio, very good point by you. Let's move on and let's get to a real interesting topic here because I got to tell you, I looked at this and I was a little bit dumbfounded by the starting 11. I could not figure it out. What was going through your mind initially an hour before the match when you saw the starting 11, saw no Anthony Robinson? Now, we thought he might be a doubt, but trying to figure out what was the formation, how this is all going to play out. Were you concerned or did you think that this could potentially work?
Yeah, slightly reservations there, and it goes back about injuries. Robinson injured, his successor also injured as well, and we saw what's his name now? The other fullback, on the right back. He came on against Tottenham, played out of position, left back, and was totally
And
exposed.
Babu.
But that's it. Sorry, I had a mental block there. So look, seeing him at the Tottenham Stadium a couple of weeks ago, he was awful when he came on. I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was playing in the wrong position, and clearly the manager didn't want to have a repeat of that. So the fact that he had more faith in putting a central defender at the age of 34, keeping the Forest back, because Forest play with a high press, and they play a 3-5-2 as well. So the fact that you had the confidence to put a 34-year-old aged defender who's had an outstanding season to combat that press from Forest, that says a lot of how much trust is being imposed on Tim Ream. So I was a little bit nervous, but
Yes.
I'm not sure what other options there were there, to be totally honest with you, in hindsight. Who else could we have put on? There was no.
Bobby Decker Reed maybe could have played a
Yeah,
left back if you needed
he's probably
to.
more right back key type of. He plays more right back and he's covered in Premier League a couple of years ago. So fair play to Silva. Again, if it went wrong and horribly wrong, then he would have been lambasted by the supporters. So fair play to him for having the courage to make that bold decision and bringing in Diop, who's had one start
Yes.
against Crawley and had a shock of that game. But I'm
And I
getting
thought he
mixed.
played very well, by
I
the
thought he
way.
played well. 15 million. I think we're going to get good value from him, and he's young. He's energetic. He will make mistakes, but Tosin's learning, and he's still making mistakes. Let's be honest. Tosin's
Well, Tosin made
doing
a
a good
mistake
goal,
in
but
this match, and we'll talk
yeah,
about that.
so Diop will add some strength and pace in that central defence. But we can't fault Tim Ream. Look, he's done nothing wrong this season. He's been outstanding, and it goes against what everyone else thought, that Tim Ream was not good enough for the Premier League. So 7 games in, he's probably one of our best players so far this season.
What's crazy about this, Emilio, and we're going to break down this match in just a second. When you look at him at left back and you look at the pace going up against him,
Mm.
it's funny because I was listening to a Forest podcast, and they were talking about why they did not take advantage of Tim Ream even more. They really didn't. But I think that's a testament to how
Yeah.
Fulham played. I don't think I think they really did a
Mhm.
number to basically, I wouldn't say cover for Tim Ream, but
Mhm.
limit the opportunities to attack Tim Ream. So I just don't think that Forrest had those opportunities in them. And I think a lot had to do with how Fulham
Mhm.
played. And they protected him, but listen, give Tim Ream a hell of a lot of credit here. With someone that old, I'm, again, listen, I'm old. You know what I mean.
Mhm.
In football age, to be
Yeah.
34 years old
Yeah.
playing a left back against a speedy player and be able to withstand that is pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. And I was one that said I didn't want him to be a starting in the Premier League,
Yeah.
and he's proven me wrong. Keep proving me wrong.
Yeah.
Anthony Robinson, even though he was
Mm.
injured, couldn't play. Keep proving me wrong. I love to be proven wrong.
What
And
sprang
this
to
is
mind, it was when Dan Burn
well,
played
well,
at left back or played at full back all those years ago. That's what sprang to
yeah.
mind at the time. But
Well, well, you and I are going to talk about a player who scored a goal that I might not be one of your favorites. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, these players are just doing a job. They're doing a
yeah,
job, and Tim Ream is testament to this. But to be honest with you, when the starting 11 came out, I had my doubts, and I'm glad to be proven wrong. But Silva's done this before. He's put out lineups, and I'm thinking to myself, how is this going to work? And
yeah,
it ended up working. It
and also
did.
Willian as well. I'm
Willian played
you know
well too.
he played well too. I'm not his biggest fan. But I could only measure him on what I see on the pitch. I thought
Right.
he had a solid game on Friday night. He struggled to impose himself against Tottenham when he came on as a sub a couple of weeks ago. But overall, can't fault him. He's coming for a season. He's experienced. Maybe I'd like to see some of those sort of selfishness and total lack of team ethics that he had when his previous clubs. Whether he hope he doesn't bring that to Fulham Football Club and becomes more of a team player than he
Right.
was at Arsenal and Chelsea. But if he brings that experience and becomes a team player, more dynamic, more rounded, and what you see on the pitch is all 11 players playing for each other. That's the key thing here. So yes, Tim Ream's got his limitations. He's not a left back, but you've got protection there. You've got Paulinho, who's playing out of his skin, and probably one of the best players in the Premier League this season for any club, let alone for Fulham. And you brought Diop after a shocker against Crawley. He came in and sort of again supported him. And again, it's what you're seeing is teamwork, team ethics here, and that's why
Right.
Willian, yes, had a good game, but I'd like him to continue to play as a team player rather than as an individual, which he's notorious for.
Okay. Excellent stuff. Okay. Coming up next, Emil and I are going to break down this match, and we will finish up at the end of the show with man of the match. Okay, Emilio, let's get to it. Let's do our first half analysis. But let's start here because, again, let's give Nottingham Forest some credit here. They did score. So let's start with talking about the goal from them. And then we'll take it after that because I think that's when we can really talk about how Fulham played after the goal. But let's talk about the goal for Forest. And actually, this started going up against Tim Ream, and they got a corner and they scored. What were your thoughts about Fulham giving up this goal early in the match?
Yeah, disappointing. Obviously, I wasn't watching the game live. I was obviously seeing on Twitter and other platforms some of the highlights during the course of the game. It's a disappointing goal to give away, right? I thought it was an even game up until that point, but good cross, good corner, and again you've got to deal with that better. Forest, are limited in terms of what they have to offer, but I think it's a straightforward header. To be honest, we'll be very disappointed to have conceded that goal. Thankfully, it came early in the game, so it gave us 80 plus minutes to still turn that around. But it's a poor goal to give away, and I'm sure Marco Silva gave the team a bit of a back kicking up the backside at halftime off the back of that. It was, it's not good enough. But we weren't sharp at the time, and it was too easy as far as I'm concerned, far too easy.
Right, and I agree with that, Emilio. And I'm going to share my thoughts as we look at the first half. So they
Mm.
give up the goal. They weren't sharp to begin,
Mm.
but then, and this goes back to the mentality. You could drop your head at this point. You're on the
Yeah.
road. You're playing against an opponent that desperately needs all 3 points, and they picked it up a gear. They controlled
Mm.
the rest of the half.
Yeah.
And the one player that stood out to me, especially in the first half, with some of his runs, shockingly, was Issa Diop. Now, Issa Diop, I was a little bit nervous to see him go so far up, but he was making some passes. So was Tim Ream, but they were controlling the play. Were they overly dangerous in the first half? No, but they were dictating how the match was being played. Even being down a goal, they were probing and they were looking for their opportunities. They did not get that equalized in the first half, Emilio, but they were basically giving warning signs to Nottingham Forest that they were in this match and that there was a good chance they were going to come back in this match by their play in the first half. How about your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think we had a lot of possession in that half. I thought we definitely finished the half stronger. I think on the balance of play, I think 1-0 lead for Forest flattered them, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And I think it's hence why I was disappointed we give up a sloppy goal. And we'll learn from that for next time. Again, it was just better man marking, and we would have avoided conceding a goal there. But there was nothing to suggest from what I was reading. Clearly, at the time I wasn't watching a game live, but what I was reading and hearing, we went into half time knowing that the game is far from over, to be honest. We know Forest gave up that 2-goal lead against Bournemouth and fell apart second half. And, they've done a repeat of that. Again, they can blame their manager for tactics, not playing a 4-4-2 or more conservative back four in midfield. Obviously, he likes to play a high press, and that's his philosophy. Right. And it's a bit like Silva. If you don't get it right, you're going to get penalised. And Forest, they've got battered by Bournemouth second half, and the same happened against Fulham in the second half. Again, just disappointed that the scoreline wasn't less flattering in favour of for Fulham. As far as I'm concerned, we deserved to win by a bigger margin, and another day we would have got a goal in this first half, but there was enough to suggest goals were coming second half.
Absolutely.
And it was enough to again, based on what I've heard and what I was listening, because I wasn't watching a game at the time. It's just not a lot of the fans who were there, or the ones who were listening or watching some sort of stream, were clearly saying Fulham are on tops first half.
Yep.
A lot to look forward to in the second half.
Absolutely, Emilio. Let's talk about the second half. And to be fair to Nottingham Forest, they came out very strong. And I don't know what Cooper said to them at halftime, but they were on the front foot. But again, good teams, when they're under pressure, find ways to take advantage of their opponent. And this is where Fulham did this. So let's talk about the Tosin equalizer. Fulham have been tremendous off of set pieces, Emilio. Now, again, it's funny because I've heard different things about this goal. Did Mitro plan on this? The answer is yes. I've heard people say it was accident. I'm like, no. This was a basketball pick. I'm going to call it what it is. They planned this. They get away with it, and honestly, that allows Tosin just a second to be by himself and headed it into the goal. Am I going to criticize the way Fulham have done it? No, they've actually found a way to be masterful on these set pieces, especially corners that you might think, well, is that legal or is that not legal? Well, it's a goal, my friend. It's a goal. You can, if you're a Nottingham Forest supporter, you can look at it and say, well, is there a foul there? They didn't call it. They didn't call it. But if you're asking me, the intent was there to set a pick, a basketball pick is what we would say here. And next thing you know, I mean, Mitro goes down. Mitro's a big guy. Mitro goes down. It's like, again, did he really go down hard? He went down way too easy for me. But it didn't matter. No, it didn't matter. It set up the goal, and I'll take the goal. And this is about planning. And one thing that I don't think that we can not mention is the delivery from Willian. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I said it's all about tactics, right? At the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's we've talked about closing a game out earlier in the show. That's all about
training
tactics.
Ground move, Dave. You're right. That's exactly what this is.
So at the end of the day, it's whilst if you do something that's legal and above board, then you have the right to do what you want. And the key thing for me is the amount of goals we're scoring from set pieces this season. Again, that's
tremendous.
It's very high compared to previous seasons in the Premier League, that's for sure. And but overall, great cross from Willian and Tosin. Again, doesn't score enough goals, I think, last season. In the season before, someone of that build, you need to be hitting the back of the net more frequently.
Absolutely.
So we know he's got aerial threat.
Positive sign.
But overall, William did good peach of a cross, great header, 1-1. I think it was just before. Was it Nico Williams who we thought? I think I could hear on the radio commentary that maybe once Williams took possession of the ball, but I think there's an expectation he was going to shoot the top of the net, like he did for us last season. But he's had a disappointing start to the season for us. Let's be honest. We're all talking about the players that we've bought, but we saved ourselves £18 million.
Well, I'm going to bring up an interesting statistic with you talking about money when we talk about the second goal, Emilio. So let's transition, because just a few minutes later, Fulham get the go-ahead goal from João Paulinho. And I think I heard this on a podcast that Nico Williams, the amount of money that Nottingham Forest paid for Nico Williams is about the same that Fulham played for João Paulinho. So you tell me who got the better of the deal here, because this player is unbelievable. But if I have any fault, and again, he was excited. He was putting his hand on the badge. He was doing all these great things. He went in the crowd. He got a yellow card. Now he's suspended. But you know what? Fantastic goal. The whole build-up play, the way Fulham got this goal, it really was a team goal. But the delivery, the strike from Paulinho is just first rate, Emilio. Your thoughts on the go-ahead goal for Fulham?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we talk about the Nico Williams situation there again, most hardcore fans were all saying 10 million was a generous offer. The fact that Forest paid almost double that, and let's admit, Nico Williams is not a bad player, but we've always felt his defensive qualities were weaker than Kenny Tete, for example. I think we always said head to head, Tete's a better defender, was Williams like came forward, that suits Nottingham Forest's style of football. But he's struggled to adjust to the Premier League, playing week in, week out. Forest are conceding goals for fun at the moment, and but Paulinho, goodness me, it's this guy is, I think he is, like I said earlier, he's one of the best players in the Premier League this season. And that's right now, fantastic. It just reminded me of a bit like a Michel Seri goal against Burnley a few years ago. Again,
similar
thing. We expected a lot from Seri all those years ago. Unfortunately, didn't quite live up to expectations. But
or maybe that Berbatov goal.
That Berbatov goal as well. Absolutely, good point. And Paulinho, just in terms of defensive qualities, is attacking threats from set pieces, even from outside the area. That's the second goal of the season. Yeah, of course you have a right to celebrate, and you know in this day and age, you celebrate in that way, you're going to get yellow carded. And if it wasn't be this game, he was going to get yellow carded. He was going to pick one up against the next game. So I think we have to get used to a few match bans for Paulinho this season. But if it gives me that return every game he plays, those goals, that defensive quality, and just that captain type material, he just looks like a leader on the pitch, just struts around the pitch with an air of confidence and arrogance. Blimey, this player is going to be tapped up by other teams next season. That's going to be the worry. But fair play to Tony Khan and the Fulham board for negotiating hard on this signing, and the fact that he chose Fulham over Wolverhampton Wanderers says a lot. So well done, Tony Khan and the team here, for getting an outstanding player. Does he get enough credit for that, Tony Khan? I know he's not everyone's favourite friend, but let's give him credit where it's due. He negotiated hard and got the player he wanted.
And Wolves wanted this player. Let's not kid ourselves. And everything I was hearing about Paulinho for, I want to say, a few weeks was that Wolves were going to go after him. And they weren't able to sell a player. I understand all that. But Fulham swooped in and they got the player. And he has been the difference maker, Emilio. I think he has taken Fulham to a team that many thought would be in a relegation battle to potentially a team that could be comfortably mid-table. I know I'm jumping ahead, but I'm just saying he might be the reason for that difference maker, everything that he does. And you have to, I hate to say it, you're going to have to live with the yellow cards. You're going to have to live with this, and they'll have to adjust, and we'll see what they do in the next match. Who's going to play in the spot? That's going to be a huge topic of discussion. Who takes over for Paulinho against Newcastle United? I don't know. We'll definitely be talking about that. But let's now work off this. Now, Fulham are up 2-1, Emilio. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, can they hold on the rest of the match, or are they going to try to go for a third? And to their credit, like I said, they were going for a third. And at one point, I thought trying to get a fourth goal. So they get the third goal. And I'm not going to lie to you, Emilio. I was thinking of you when this goal scorer scored the goal. He finally scores for Fulham. But this is not just about Harrison Reed. It's about Bobby Decadovere with cutting the ball back perfectly to him. Also, Williams' run,
Yeah.
again, and Mitro's
Hmm.
pass to begin the entire thing. It was a very well taken team goal, and Harrison Reed gets his first goal of Fulham, giving Fulham the lead 3-1. What are your thoughts about this goal? And listen, kudos to Harrison Reed for scoring this goal.
Yeah.
And Emilio, I know you have this thing with Harrison Reed, but you got to give credit where credit is due here.
Yeah. You know me. I'll always give people credit where they do well, whether you like a player or not. But Harrison Reed's not my best friend, shall we say? I'm not his biggest fan, but at the end of the day, he's doing a job. He's doing a job. I don't think he's got. I like to see quality in terms of technical quality. I don't like people. For me, Harrison Reed doesn't necessarily have technical.
He's just
quality.
not your cup of tea. That's all this is.
At the end of the day, I like to see purist type of football, and Harrison Reed doesn't offer that, but he offers other attributes, which is working well in this system.
Yep,
he's doing a job at this level. And fair play for Marcus Silva continue to play him. But as a purist, he doesn't offer much. But I'm pleased he's finally scored his first goal for the club. Well worked goal, good movement from the players, but the intensity at that point, the amount of intent, we were running at 200 miles an hour. Forest just barely kicked off for from going 2-1 behind. Next 2 minutes later, you're 3-1 down. So fair play to Fulham. We just didn't take the foot off the gas. All that high press, all that intensity we're playing, and Harrison Reed was in the right place. Like I said, nice pass from Decadovere Reed. Good movement from Mitrovic and William, like you said, to draw away the defenders. And at the end of the day, Harrison Reed comfortably scored in the back, the back of the net. So in the day, fair play. I'm pleased he's broken his duck for Fulham, and at the moment he's doing a good job. He's doing the job he's being asked to do. It's not his fault he hasn't got the technical qualities, as I see as a purist, but he's got other attributes and assets that are suiting the way we play and keeping things moving and ticking along in that, in the opposing half of the pitch. So very pleased for him, and hopefully now there'll be more goals for him to come, and hopefully we can continue to utilise his service. He'll probably come back and replace Palini in central defence, I'm guessing, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about what might be done.
Overall, can't forward it 3-1 up and in control. And did we take the foot off the gas, or could it have been 4 or 5-1 if we wanted to? So again,
well, that's the question I'm going to ask you right now. Let's move on, because again, Fulham are up 3-1, Emilio. And do Fulham just don't want comfortable victories? Do they just need to make it nervy for everyone? Because again, a little credit to Steve Cooper, and he's been slammed for waiting too long to do his substitutions, but he makes one, and I will say it's a mistake from Tosin that leads to the goal from O'Brien, which makes it 3-2, Emilio. And I'm just thinking to myself, why do we have to give up this goal? But they do. So what are your thoughts about the second goal from Forest, and what would be a nervy finish, we thought, which actually turned out to be a controlled finish? But at the time, what were you thinking?
Here we go again. It's a Fulham all over, very Fulhamish, basically. The 3-1 up, cruising, dominating. Forest didn't even have a sniff of a chance in that second half, and suddenly we've handed them a second goal. And there's the only criticism for me is that we conceded 2 fairly sloppy goals against a very poor team, a team that's still struggling to find their best 11, and a team that's struggling to find a way of playing. To be honest, they've got they've got some individual players, and they haven't got many. I'm not seeing that team ethics, that team camaraderie that we've got. We've continued, into the Premier League with team ethics. Players playing for each other. Forest, I don't see that. They've got a lot of individual players, maybe a lot of characters on the pitch. And that's why Steve Cooper's maybe struggling to get the best out of them. But my view was, from what I heard when I was listening to it on the radio at the time, was frustration. I think, here we go, 3-1 up, cruising, keep it tight, don't give anything away sloppy. And I just said we handed them a second goal. That was a frustrating.
Right.
Tosin, needs to do better there. And again, he's done well when Tim Ream's been alongside. You could argue Tosin for both those goals. You've got to be doing better, right? Yeah. But he's still young. He's learning. But again, we've conceded 2 cheap goals, disappointingly. Against bigger teams, 2 goals, maybe 3 or 4 goals that you concede.
That's right.
Like that. So yes, we can score goals, But equally, I think was it Dave mentioning earlier, we're conceding too many goals, and some of them are
Too
a
many
bit
goals.
too
I
sloppy.
agree with Dave. I agree with all the criticism. Way too many goals. Eventually, it's going to come back to bite you, and they need to clean that up.
Got to be
But I do
safety first. It's got to be safety first for me. Sometimes when you're 3-1
sometimes.
and dominating, sometimes you just do what's ugly. Don't try to
Yeah.
pass way out of trouble or try to be pretty. Hoof the ball out. Be un-Fulham like in that
Yep.
respect, and
Yep.
just hoof
And
the
I
ball
agree
in.
with Dave. This is what he
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
done, but he didn't do it.
He didn't do
I
it.
agree with
You
Dave
know,
on that. Okay,
but
I do have to share this, and I disagree with my friend Chris Goodwin. His Fulham at Easy Games, what would guys talk about? We'd have plenty to talk about. This isn't the New England Patriots, Chris, where everyone criticizes everything that they do. We'd actually be happy if they had an easy game. I'd be thrilled if they
I was
had an
going to
easy
say
game. So,
I couldn't do the show a couple of weeks ago. Steve did with you, but I was watching the Napoli Liverpool game. And sorry, Chris, for mentioning it, but
oh,
that was an easy game, wasn't it? So,
oh, oh, wow. That's a
sorry,
shot there,
Chris.
my friend.
Sorry,
That's a shot.
that was a cheap comment back to you. But I'm trying to say it's not often Fulham this level.
Yeah.
Put aside the championship, and this level, never an easy game in this
Yep.
division. No teams are picking up points from each other. There's no games that are predictable to bet. So it's Newcastle. Had a poor start to the season. I know we're playing them next, but that's not an easy game. West Ham away, bad start, not an easy game. There's no easy games in this
There
division.
is no easy game. Leicester City, there are no easy. I don't
No.
care what position they're in. Bournemouth, there are no easy games. It's just the way it's going to be, and we just have to accept it. And we have to grind these matches out, and hopefully we have more easier matches than harder matches. But Emilio, we've already talked a little bit about how they saw this match out, and I just think that it was impressive how they did this, seeing the match out at the end, because again, everything at this point is heading towards Nottingham Forest getting the equalizer, but it just didn't play out that way. And like I said, I named some players. I named Tom Kearney coming on. I thought he did a nice job. Even Dan James coming on with his pace can help out a little bit, and hopefully we see more of him show us a little bit more as well. But I thought that they did enough, and they deserved this victory, Amelia. That the end of the story here is: did Fulham deserve all 3 points? The answer is absolutely yes. Did Forest deserve anything from this match? My answer is absolutely not, because Fulham deserved all 3 points. And I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. The margin should have been maybe a couple goals minimum margin rather than just one. But from what I heard, I didn't think we were under any pressure, to be honest. I think Forest being at home, fans leave. I think
that's the whole thing.
A lot of fans were leaving the ground when they were 3-1 down, thinking game over, to be honest. So the fact that they managed to, we gave them a cheap goal, to be honest, but they still struggled to break us down. Tom
They
Kenny,
absolutely did, Amelia.
His confidence.
They absolutely did. Tom Kearney did a nice job. But before we do anything, I have to share this because it's going to put a smile on your face. So this is from our friend. So our friend Chris Goodwin, really, you had to go there about Emilio and Napoli with Liverpool. So, just had to throw that in there.
Bit of banter there, Chris. You appreciate it.
Bit of banter. A couple things before we finish up the show. Man of the match. If you're watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on man of the match. It's an interesting one, Emilio, because I'm actually gonna give it to Paulinho. I'm personally gonna give it to Paulinho because of what he means to Fulham. Not just the goal, just his presence affects everything that they do. And I'm gonna say Paulinho. There are plenty of places you can go on this, but I'm gonna say Paulinho. And right now he's my player of the season. Let's see what Ralph says. How well will we cope without Paulinho for Newcastle? Well, we could talk a little bit about that. I'm don't know, to be honest with you. I'm curious to see how they are able to deal with that. But for me, Paulinho is so key for everything that Fulham do. Chris Goodwin says, man of the match, João Paulinho for a stunning goal. Let's see. Wayne Walden, Harrison Reed, man of the match. Okay. All right. Well, Harrison Reed can make an argument as well. This is from Dave Cronin. No standout, all played well. Thought William did okay. I thought William did okay as well, Dave. I think that's encouraging. Definitely encouraging that he played well. And what's crazy about this, Emilio, as we talk about man of the match, and this is more of a team victory, let's go back to what we were talking about at the beginning here. Fulham are on 11 points in 7 matches. They're currently 6. We know other teams haven't played. We know the situation with that. But if you look at it, they're going to be getting players back. This
Mm.
isn't the best version of Fulham Football Club. So you know me, you know I'm a positive guy, but it's hard not to be positive right now. It's hard.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously left back were a little bit exposed there. Again, Tim Ream did a good job, and
Yep.
Diop protected him, Palhinha protected him. Let's be clear. I think the role that Palhinha plays not only offers attacking opportunities there from set piece and just from his stunning shot on Friday night, but the fact that he's protecting that back four, and he's obviously protecting Tim Ream as well. So again, he's come in with a lot more strength in that middle of the park. I know we were all critical when maybe Seri was released, but look who we've got now: Seri versus Palhinha. I think nobody will question the decision at the time to release.
No.
To be honest, but overall, we're looking organised, we're looking hungry. That comes with confidence as well. So again, if we're picking up points, we're no fool. We're not going to expect Fulham to be winning every single game, but we're picking up points where we need to. We're picking up points against the teams that we're expected to get points from. And again, Liverpool is a bonus, but the other games, Brighton, Brentford, and Forest, these are all games that 9 points. I think we all wanted 9 points from those 3 games, and we've got those 9 points from those 3 games. Newcastle, West Ham, and other games in October are winnable games. Bournemouth at home, Villa at home. There's another 6 points there minimum that we need to be grabbing in October.
Yeah.
Potentially more, but let's be realistic. There's 2 home games there. I expect to get 6 points, and Newcastle and West Ham are not bonus points, but if you get anything from those 2, that's in addition to the 6 that you should be getting against Villa and Bournemouth. So
Emilio, if they're above 20 points out of October, phenomenal shape.
Yeah,
phenomenal
and it's achievable. It's achievable. I look at the Villa and Bournemouth games as the 2 easier home games. West Ham away, we haven't got a good record, but they'll turn the corner at some point. And Newcastle, you don't know what team you're going to get. So they're very hit and miss. They're not scoring many goals. They're not losing many games. But again, Newcastle, they've got a good record at Craven Cottage as well. So that's a tricky game.
I agree.
But overall, I'll give my man of the match, probably from what I saw, extended highlights, probably to Palhinha and Harrison Reed a close second, because I thought Harrison Reed worked his socks off, got a deserved goal, and I think he deserves some credit there. But overall, good team performance.
Okay, great there, Emilio. Okay, couple topics to end the show. Let's start with something very positive. Okay, Luke Harris signs with Fulham. Emilio, with everything that has happened with, I can name the players: Ryan Sessegnon, Harvey Elliott. We can go to Pat Roberts. Obviously, Fabio recently. To sign Luke Harris is a major situation for Fulham Football Club. But it also shows you how impressive the academy is. They keep churning out players. You need to be signing them. You're not going to be able to keep all of them, and you might lose them at some point. But this is massive, Emilio, to sign him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Marcus Silva deserves some credit as well. He plays with these young players. Last year with Carvalho, he gave him the opportunity in the Championship, and unfortunately the player thought he wanted to go and play for a bigger club, so that was his decision. But Luke Harris, we've tied him down for 3 years.
Yep.
We'll probably see him figuring on the bench at some point in the next. Don't be surprised you'll start to see him figure at some point or be on the bench for performances. But overall, kudos to the management team signing for 3 years, giving him a good extended professional contract. And you're right. The academy brings up a lot of young talent, and I just want to see how we can retain some of this talent.
It's hard.
Sessegnon struggled since he left Fulham, but there's signs of him at Tottenham. Conte.
Okay, Chris, you're not having this one too.
No, you're not.
No, you're not having this one too. Sorry, Chris, you're not having this one too.
Look, how some of these other younger players. Fulham have got. It's all about if we can retain Premiership status, we can attract a player and keep them signed up. Fabio, if he were an established Premier League team, I don't think he would have left Liverpool, but Fulham to go to Liverpool. But he wanted to leave, and fair play to him. That is your problem now, Chris, and hopefully he does well for you, except for when he plays against Fulham. But overall, kudos to the board and to the owners to have signed Luke Harris on an extended contract. I'm looking forward to seeing him figure in some Premier League substitutions later this season. I think he will. Yeah. You'll see him in some games.
I think you will. It's funny. I talked to Mike about it on an earlier show, Mike Gregg, and he was basically of the mindset that he didn't want to see him this season just because I think he wanted him to develop as a player. but I think you'll see him off the bench.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he needs to gain some weight, similar to how Ryan Sessegnon, I thought, needed to gain
Mm,
some weight and grow into his body. And then I think he'll be a great player. I think Luke Harris has a chance to be as good as any of the players that Fulham have produced lately. What I've seen, there's no reason why he cannot. We will see what ends up happening, but this is a wonderful thing that he signed with Fulham. He said all the right things. If you read the quotes,
yeah.
he again said all the right things. We'll see what happens in a couple seasons, but no, Chris, you can't have him. I'm just going to leave you at that. Okay. Final topic, my friend, to end the show. We do have to talk about it because, again, this is going to be an international break, but the big topic is going to be when we come back, who replaces
Mm,
João Polina, Emilio? Now, this is interesting because there are a couple different ways you got to go. I was thinking a little bit outside the box on this. I think it could be Harrison Reed, like you said, and then maybe you bring Tom Kearney in. Maybe that's what you do. You might bring in Chalobah, and I know how people feel
mm,
about Chalobah, but I'm going to remind everyone that when Chalobah played against Manchester City in the FA Cup, when Fulham were still in the championship, he actually played very well in that match.
mm,
And he played in a similar role here. I'm not saying that he's the be all to end all, but I saw something that I know what he did against Crawley Town. I understand all that, and I've seen what he's done lately, but it might end up being him. It might be Chalba, or it might be the situation that you have. Now, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here, Emilio, and I mentioned this, and I actually read an article about this from West Ham. I just threw it out there. So you want to get all your best players in there, and you're going to have a suspension to Paulinho. And you're expecting Tim Ream to go back, Emilio, to center back. Would you even consider Issa Diop in a
mm,
defensive midfielder role? Now, that's outside the box. I know,
mm.
thinking. But they had this discussion. West Ham supporters had this discussion about him potentially being a defensive midfielder. So I'm not. I doubt that they would ever do it, and probably wouldn't be the right thing to do. But just his build, I think maybe he could be that. But again, I don't see that happening. What are your thoughts?
Still believe it will be Harrison Reed who will come and play. I think that's the most natural choice. If you want a slightly left field option, I'll probably say maybe it will be more Chalobah than Diop. To be honest with you, I think Chalobah is
Yeah,
probably more accustomed to playing in
it's
that
not going to be
position.
Diop. That's just me just throwing.
Albeit,
Yeah,
Chalobah, has got more critics than fans. To be honest, he's
yep,
he's had a few good games for the club, but had a number of nightmare games, and I still think it will be Harrison Reed there.
yep.
He'll that's more. To be honest, that's more his natural position. To be honest, He'll continue to work hard, protect that back four, and
Yep.
as long as he's got some other central midfield protection there, that's the only thing. Is who comes in for Reed in that attacking? Is it Tom Kearney? I think that's the only option. Do you then start to maybe play Dan James? Maybe have a more attacking, offensive lineup, and maybe
Yep.
go for gold. Maybe Marco Silva's view is, it's not a free hit, but it's Newcastle are not firing on all cylinders at the moment. They're a
And
bit
we're
hit.
home.
We're at home. We've got the home advantage there, so be a little bit more bold. So
Okay.
you got maybe put a little bit more attacking threat there to offset the fact that you've only got Harrison Reed. I wouldn't play Chalobah, but he'll be
Yep.
probably second choice to Silva. It'll be Reed first and Chalobah worst case scenario coming in.
Okay. Okay. And some of the comments are Shalva will step up. Tom Kearney for me.
Mhm.
So, and this is from Mike. He says, sadly, going to be Chalba, I think.
I think
This is our comment from Chris. Yes, Chris, you would say this
yeah.
is a Liverpool supporter attack is the best form
That's my
of
point.
defense.
Exactly. That's my
And
point. Put Harrison
and
Reed
I
there.
tend to agree with you on that. I'm not against that either, Chris. So
No.
thank you for sharing all your thoughts. And I actually think it's going to be Chalaba, but we shall see, my friend. But listen, great show. Fantastic show, Amelia. Before we wrap this up, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, final thoughts. Great Fulham victory. 3 points on the board. We've got the break now to maybe pick. Obviously, Robinson can hopefully recover from injury and start to get some gain. Get some just recovery under his belt in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for us to rest some of our players and just get them back on track for that Newcastle game. We've got a busy October. I think there's 4 or 5 games that month, so that's going to test any squad, let alone Fulham's. So, but overall, very pleased with the victory. 11 points on the board. We did the Queen proud, Her Majesty the Queen, with our victory. So yeah, my final thought is, rest in peace, Your Majesty. Thank you for all your services to this country, to the world. We will badly miss you, as will the rest of the world. But you are unique, and our club, Fulham Football Club, is very unique. So yeah, there's a common alignment there. But my thoughts are about the Queen, less about the victory of Fulham. So please rest in peace. You're now with your husband in safe hands, and we'll continue to think about you. So thank you very much, Your Majesty.
And thank you once again, Emilio, for sharing your thoughts. Very well said from the beginning of the show and at the end. And we are thinking of Queen Elizabeth and everyone who is mourning her passing. So thank you very much, Emilio, for sharing that. Great show as always, my friend. Great show. I do want to mention before we wrap this up, please do subscribe once again on YouTube. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. And once again, you'll be hearing us talk a lot about this. Cottage Talk is now part of the TalkSport Fan Network, and we'll see where this takes us. We hope it opens us up to supporters of other clubs and maybe more supporters of Fulham. Who knows? But I'm very excited about this partnership, and great show. Fantastic show. I always love doing it with Emilio. But it is time to wrap up this episode of Cottage Talk. For Emilio Danello, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.